Hey there, I am back with another deck review, and today we're going to be looking at Royal Silk Test Print from Oath Playing Cards and designer Lautrec. Lautrec's known in playing cards for his luxurious designs, ones that push the boundaries with the different techniques and materials that he's able to use, but he's equally known for his attention to detail and perfectionism. That perfectionism leads to some of the most precise executions that you'll ever see, but of course is also the culprit behind the numerous delays that he's known for. Those delays as he tinkers and tinkers and tinkers with designs until he can get them just right and up to his standard. And as a result, sometimes people will wait months or even years to get one of his designs. And the Royal Silk Test Print is a testament to all of those characteristics in his deck. Royal Silk is a follow-up to the original pair of Silk decks from a couple of years ago, ones where he decided to use foil in really interesting and unique ways, but with Royal Silk, wanted to push that boundary even further, and you'll see what I mean as we get into the cards themselves. But the test print came to be because as he was printing the decks, of course, he's going back and printing and reprinting, unhappy with the results the first time. And one of those results was he thought close to where he wanted to be, but not quite perfect. And so he went to reprint, but decided to make those failed prints, if you will, available to his patrons. And that's the deck that you see here. Now, as you're going to see, this deck to me, I think is absolutely stunning in its own right. So really excited to dive into it. So let's get into it and see what the deck's all about. All right, so you can tell it's the test print because of the red band around the outside, just a regular card stock here, Royal Silk Test Print, and they're hand numbered out of 555. And then you can slide that off nice and easily and get to the deck underneath. And the regular Royal Silks, this is a lot more what you can expect to get if you get those. It's done on a purple stock with gold foil on here. And you can see how the embossing on here, very subtle embossing, is used to create texture, not just on the gold foil, but also on the purple background. You get kind of a fabric feel to it here as the alternating embossing pattern here, left and right kind of diagonal lines here, give you that feel of lines in the fabric there. Really cool effect to it overall. Royal Silk in the center, and then the gold has like the lines in here that again give it some kind of depth and texture. Despite the fact that it's just a single color of gold foil, that filigree in the corner really has some nice depth and shine to it. And it kind of gives a nice texture to it overall. You'll see that ornate pattern continues to the sides of the box, get the little oath pattern there at the bottom, and it wraps around to the back where you get a little bit of a peek of the back design in the cards kind of embossed into that purple background. We'll see more of that as we get into a second, but there's the fourth side of the tuck box, again with more of that gold. Bottom here has the ad copy, as well as where the final version of the deck will actually be numbered. So this is usually where he numbers the deck down there. And then the top, there's more of that gold pattern with the purple on the other side. Really nice tuck box. Doesn't have a very deep emboss. It looks like it's got some texture, but feels relatively flat, but that look to it is just really impressive in hand. So you open up the tuck, more of the same patterning on the inside, and you get some very nice gold foil printing on the interior as well. More of that same style pattern, but this time done primarily in gold. You can just see the purple peeking through there as that pattern continues through the entire interior of the tuck box. So very cool look to the tuck, but let's get to the cards. We'll start with the back design. And here it is. So the original design used kind of a mixture of foil and a little bit of ink, but the new Royal Silk cards are almost entirely done in foil. You can see bits of the purple cardstock, so it's a fully purple cardstock, just peeking through and giving little accents of color. But most of the design work that you see here is done all in gold. As you tilt in the light, you'll see all sorts of different textures and just design work popping up. So the design itself at first glance looks almost ordinary. I mean, there's definitely really ornate patterning, the filigree kind of twisting its way around the shape of kind of a spade pip there, top and bottom, and the vines making their way up the sides. But what really makes this unique are the extra little textures you get in here. Like if you look in the background, you'll see more of that almost fabric-like pattern forming the background pattern here. And then even in the gold borders here, as you tilt in the light, you'll see little bits of kind of almost a damask sort of pattern in the background of the border as well. It all combines to give a real depth to the card, despite the fact the whole thing's done in a single color of foil, just gold foil. You get depth and layers to this. I mean, look at that, tilted at different angles. The whole thing almost has a 3D effect to it. It's just really impressive in hand. As you look at everything in different lights, you'll just see different things pop out. You know, it can look almost solid gold in some lights, but then suddenly pick up depth and texture in other lights. Just a really cool effect to the back design. And the cards are all done in foil as well. So what little bits of color you see, like here on the Jokers, is just the little bits of the cardstock peeking through, but almost everything colored in foil. The borders of the two Jokers have that same pattern work, very lightly pressed into them. And the Jokers have kind of a standard or a classic jester on each one of them, just mirror images of each other, but the jester holding his little staff there. Fun look to them overall. And of course you get that same fabric-y pattern there in the background with Joker in the corners. So not too crazy or out of the box design to the artwork on the Jokers, but it's that use of foil and texturing again that really elevates this to the next level. Ace of Spades, also impressive. Again, has that super ornate spade pip in the center. Oath playing cards, 2021. Of course, now the final version of the deck is probably going to be more like 2022 by the time it's released. Royal Silk at the top, and more of that same patterning that we've seen all through the rest of the deck so far on the borders and in the background. Really cool look to it. And then the negative space, one of the few areas that's not foiled here, is what makes up the pip and index in the corners. That's actually just the cardstock peeking through the foil that's pretty much everywhere else on the card. Number cards each feature that background that has that, again, fabric texture, same details all the way through, but then the little cutouts to the foil that give you the spade pips there. Pretty familiar layout to these, nothing too out of the ordinary. So the number cards, you know, I think at this point we've seen so much gold foil and texturing, but really cool look to these overall. The red cards now kind of fill in that purple or that darker pip there in the center, so you get just an outline of the gold, the solid gold pip there in the center. So the red cards are gold and the black cards are, I guess you would call, purple as their primary color. But again, really nice shine to the foil, and that flat foil even just pops out that much more against the texturing of the rest of it. There's into your clubs, kind of a nice, almost a fleur-de-lis feel to the clubs there. And then into the classically shaped hearts, maybe like a slightly elongated heart. And then we get to the court cards. And again, these are really, really impressive. So if you saw the original Silk deck, you'll know that that one had little mixtures of color, definitely heavy use of foil and using some of these same texturing techniques, but this one now done in all gold, and it really is just a luxurious feel to it. I will say the artwork on these has a little bit more standard of a vibe to them, but definitely some customizations on these to give it kind of a cleaner feel to it, like the lute here in the hands of the Queen of Spades. But what really stands out, of course, is going to be that use of the gold foil. You get that border just like on all the other cards, and the unique patterning all done just with the gold foil and the purple cardstock to form, you know, things like the clothing or the texturing, you know, the flatter texture of the hat or the fur-lined coat, but then just all sorts of little details pressed in. And again, as you tilt it in the light, you'll get lots of different little details pop out. It's a really impressive look to it overall. So not all of the artwork on this is my favorite, but I do like the Queen of Spades there. It just has a more unique look to it overall. Some of the cards, as we're going to see as we go through them, have definitely a much more classic vibe, like the Jack of Diamonds here definitely carries a lot more elements forward from the hair, the axe, you would see like on a classic bicycle card. But others, like the Queens, for example, have a much more custom feel to them overall, which for me, always my preference to be more custom rather than less. But all in all, really nice, clean artwork on these. And again, that foil, just the absolute standard. I feel like I said foil probably 80 times in this one, but can't say it enough that that gold is really, really impressive. There's your Queen of Hearts. And finally, your Suicidal King on the King of Hearts. This is one of the more classic feeling cards in the deck. So very nice look to those overall. And for me, just the depth and the the interest that he was able to produce with just foil and that purple cardstock, nothing else. Just really, really impressive. As far as handling, if you are going to use these decks for handling, it's really interesting. Lautrec decks definitely not known for handling. This one, no exception, but some interesting notes about the cardstock. It is super thin. With all that foiling and embossing, I was expecting this to be really thick. These are ultra, ultra thin feeling cards. They actually dribble and quite nicely. They fan reasonably well, considering they're basically a piece of foil in your hands. So not too bad on the handling, but definitely nothing you're going to break out for cardistry or anything like that. And honestly, most people, especially when you get to the final deck, aren't going to use these for gameplay, cardistry. This is going to be a display deck, a true collector's piece overall. But anyway, that is it. That is the look at the genuinely impressive Royal Silk deck. I'll put on a plug here. If you're not a member of the Oath Patreon, highly recommend checking it out. It's a great way not only to get access to some of his beautiful and ornate decks, but also a great way to get a little bit more behind the scenes on the process, how it is that he thinks about deck design and deck production. Lautrec is really interesting in that regard, and so definitely go check that out. I'll put a link down in the description if you want to check out the Patreon for yourself. But anyway, that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe for more deck reviews, more unboxings. Let me know what else you want to see, and I'll see you for the next one.